Welcome to Burn the Map. I'm Dan Baird, your host, and happy that you're here again listening. I appreciate it. We are talking today with a very smart individual. This is one of the good ones. Christian Hammer. Christian's the founder and CEO of Ngentix, which is kind of, as he describes it, the AI plumbing in the wall. They're doing a lot of the AI-powered infrastructure that automates the drudgery in a business. An artist, an inventor, an author, very much legitimate polymath. Smart guy. Fun guy, technical guy. And if you're someone who is a product manager, developing software, developing an AI product, this is a good one to listen to. Again, you can very much tell the people that are actually getting their hands dirty and producing things, and Christian oozes that capability. So check this one out. Hit like, subscribe if you find it interesting, or have any comments. Hit us up at info@burnthemappodcast.com or any of our socials, and enjoy the episode. Cheers. So anyways, meeting Mr. Christian Hammer today. I'm very excited. Talking to the founder and CEO of Ngentix, artist, news to me, 7 exits, lifetime inventor I've seen on your profile as well. Props.
Good and podcaster. Yeah.
And podcaster. What's the podcast name?
So the one that we're about to do season 3 is called Techtastic. It's a intentionally optimistic view on technology. And then we're about to also kick off The Driven, which is a deep dive into non-technology founders and their stories, like how they got there. And then the third one is The Deep Onion, which is like unraveling like how to best optimize your business and kind of go deep on like how the business operates piece. So in the old days, when podcasting first came out, we did Success U, which was the life lessons of serial entrepreneurs. Basically, the don't do this because we made these mistakes. Just trust us. Don't do this.
I got a buddy who wrote a book called Let Me Save You 25 Years. It was basically the same premise of like, I think some of the original titles were Business Backwards and a few other things. Like, he made it, but yeah. There's a lot of, here's why you don't do this. Or when people tell you to do this, this is why. I can tell you what happens when you don't. I love it. Okay, wait. So first thing, scratching my own itch selfishly. Yeah. I need some good tech news. A lot of the news coming through talking about layoffs and how Claude Code is disrupting, lawyers and all of these other professions, and how people are trying to figure out what their next move is and they can't find employment. And I need some of the brighter side of that techtastic thing.
I mean, you're talking about the labor disruption that comes with any new technology. It's happened every time. During our lifetimes, you can think of a lot of, there's been at least 3 major ones. The mobile phone came out with the smartphones, and all of a sudden there was a displacement of some types of work, not as much, but you had like Uber coming along and taxi drivers, limo drivers and stuff like that. Their roles are getting disrupted. With the web, you have massive disruption generally, just as the business itself kind of reformed around that. Software, when it first came out, computers when they first came out, fire when it was first created, like every time a new technology comes out, we have to adapt. Society has to adapt. We're in that transition phase. It doesn't mean that it's all rosy and sunshine, but it does mean there's something on the other side. And I think that people that find a way to leverage what's there, the technology that's already available to you, and just say, how could I do more with this? What could I do differently now that I couldn't do before? Are the ones that are going to get ahead. We keep doing this to ourselves. I mean, as technologists, this is what we do. And I think that this particular paradigm shift is really fascinating. It's coming from my seat, in that each time there's been a major innovation in computer-based software, it's mostly around the abstraction layers. Like, we went from, you had to understand binary to do anything, let's say, ones and zeros. Then we developed assembly type languages, which were writing a little bit more abstraction. Then we had Fortran, COBOL, and another level of abstraction that were really turning it into business objects. And then we had object-oriented languages like C and then C++, etc. What they're all trying to do is make this device we're sitting in front of, the tyranny of the terminal, like making it more human, is closer to speaking us, right? And that's what I think we have with the LLMs, is what Steve Jobs said in the 90s when BASIC first came out, the go-to line 10 version of BASIC. He said, finally, the computer and I can speak the same language. And I actually think that's where we are. You can do that. It might be isn't 100% of the way there. There's some gaps to fill, but if you can figure out how to fill the gaps, you can really have a huge opportunity, a once in a lifetime generational opportunity. So
I love that.
That's the positive side.
That's good, because I've started, and I helped, I wasn't the only one doing it, but I coded one of the prototypes of our company and just found the same thing. Like, my brain does not work via the terminal line. I know how it works. I've taken object-oriented programming classes. I understand the abstraction layers and stuff like that. I can think like a software developer, but man, when it comes to bugs and troubleshooting and everything like that, I know I can read it. I can troubleshoot it. I've caught bugs on behalf of our senior software developers before. But man, I cannot live there. I can absolutely not live there. It's just like, no, my brain is not designed for this. So a lot of that coding is interesting. You also reminded me too of one of the main things. I remember hearing one of the biggest disruptive technologies in the history of mankind that most people don't think about, the washing machine. In Latin America, it was huge. It displaced a ton of, like, they had the equivalent of the lady that comes over and helps clean and do stuff like that. And the displacement, but also the hours and everything that was freed up by the washing machine in the Americas was a massive, massive disruptor.
Yeah.
You're going, oh yeah, it kind of has, we don't have horse-driven carriages anymore, right, but we're still moving.
Yeah. I mean, just go down all the jobs that were disrupted by the invention of the automobile. You had the wagon wheel maker and the guy that made like all the carriage makers that made the various horse-drawn carriages. You had the horse breeders, and I mean, it's a long list. And one of the very large transformational points, but it's happened over and over and over again, and we just keep doing it. The difference today, I think, is just the rate of change that we have to adapt to. It's so much faster, and it's accelerated.
That is tiring, because I feel like we have to refresh our product portfolio as a company like every quarter now. We're just going, that's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah. A ton of it is just adapting to the new fancy, shiny object, and also what we say no to, which is a lot more. I don't quite know what the world looks like in 10 years, but simultaneously I'm going, well, what the hell should I be doing? It's like, should I go learn Python? I'll tell them no. I'd be like, hey, go learn object-oriented programming. You should learn how the abstract layers work, but no, your syntax is probably not going to get you ahead right now. What do people focus on that are kind of those like evergreen skills, that the gift that keeps on giving if you focus on them?
If it was me going back to school today, not at my age with my experience, but just saying, like, sure, go back in time and tell yourself what to look for, I'd say get an engineering degree. And I don't mean software. I mean just like critical thinking, process oriented. How do I dissect a problem into something discrete that I can then solve and build resiliency and systems around? I don't think that need will ever go away. The role that we're most excited by, though, is former product managers, because they have learned how to look at a business problem and turn it into something that a software engineer can understand, which means you can turn that same thing into prompts for, a coding AI agent system. And the speed at which you can create product is really meaningful. But it's like being able to identify the problems within a business, being able to identify the problems with any consumer, like high value always will be, because we're always going to have an economy that's based on helping humans do something. It doesn't matter what it is. There's going to always be that need. Otherwise, there's no economy. Like we have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to have shelter over our heads. So there's always that need to help humans in some form. So if you get really good at the empathy, understanding needs, wants, desires, and then can translate that into something that can be made, those skills never go away. So the other one is philosophy. I actually think philosophy is a really good skill set to learn, like understanding knowledge. Very valuable.
You just unintentionally, I am very excited about. My kid can assemble any IKEA furniture you throw at him. He's 8. He's beaten every Lego system there is. We got 3D printers here now, and that's my background, is product management. And I would agree with you completely. I mean, critical thinking skills. I tell people, go double check and check out fallacies and data-driven decision making. Like
Yeah.
just go watch out how often you unintentionally make bad decisions off of flawed logic. That is an easy thing to teach and a ridiculously useful skill to have. And a couple of the other ones. One of my favorite books was Never Be Lied to Again, written by CIA interrogators, about like how you can use micro expressions to see what people are thinking. Understanding like if they glance their eyes to the left or the right, you can figure out what side of the brain they're using. And therefore, if they're recalling a fact or making something up or trying to figure out a problem, or I'm going, hey, I was teaching my kids that one this weekend. I'm like, hey, built-in lie detector, check this out. But I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think the engineering and understanding how to, from an abstract layer, design things, watch their failures, and then build in resiliency is a huge deal. And then understanding how to get and find the right people, figure out what to say to them, how to say it, and to basically get them to try your product. Again, I feel like we're going to be smashing a ton of really big organizations into a lot of very small, very targeted organizations that are very, very good at a specific skill set. And I think that's going to be most companies in the near future, like less than 50 people, less than 20 people.
Oh, you can do it today. I mean, if you can build $1 billion company with 4 people, if you really put your mind to it.
I love it. What are you inventing?
Well, right now?
Yeah.
So the fundamental problem that's existed in business for a long time is that there's no, I'll just say it in the geek speak way, there's no system of record for execution. And so when you've got a bunch of different jobs that have to do something as simple as like, where's my package from a customer's perspective, like that question hitting a business triggers a cascade of work that has to be done across people, teams, and software.
Sure.
And that problem doesn't get better with AI agents. In fact, they kind of make it worse because you need to know what occurred, why it occurred, was that the right thing that should have occurred? Did it follow policy? Like today we have human management systems that kind of take care of that. But if we move towards an automated infrastructure there, if we start using agents to do a lot of that same work, how are we enforcing policies? How are we managing outcomes? So we're that layer. That's what we've become. To do it, though, there's a huge amount of technology you have to make true. Because in my view, you could build $1 billion company with 4 people. That looks like the software that has to exist has to be like Jarvis for Tony Stark, right? He's running a very large business, and his wishes, his demands, what he needs is being manifest via this AI thing that he's working with. I said, well, okay, sure. What do you have to fill in to make today's technology enable that outcome so that one person is getting the assistance they need to do their job end to end? And in the creation of that, said, wait a second, there's a missing piece. There's no SOR for end-to-end execution in a business. And so we built that. We're in market already with a few things that we do already, but it's actually weirdly a passion project I've been working on for close to 30 years. In some form or another, every part of what we're doing now is something I've felt in every other company. How many times you've been around long enough to have dealt with this repeatedly? Integrations are a nightmare. Right?
Yes.
Well, to do what we're trying to do, if we're going to communicate across all these different systems so that we can tell you customer's order's late, it's on a truck, that'll be there Wednesday, like to be able to surface that, I have to talk the data of all those systems. So we had to build a robust, reliable, self-healing integration layer. We also have to understand your intent. My favorite thing to use, the original prototype system I wrote is called Chief. I asked Chief every day, how are we doing, Chief? And you know what? The first day it said, what's today? Like it didn't, right? Is it the last 24 hours, right? And it had to ask a bunch of questions, but that contextual understanding of like, when you're asking me this, what do you mean, is not something that exists today in the LLMs. They develop it kind of by giving you responses and waiting for you to give them that sucked, give me a better response. Right? But I took a different approach. I did the opposite. I did exactly what a product manager does. Can you define done for me? You start with the ask and getting clarity around the need. And then once you have that, you can start to articulate it. But typically people use the same terminology over and over again. When I say I'm done with something, I usually mean the code is written and it's in production. I don't mean all the tests are written or that it's validated, right? Like everybody's going to have a slightly different, and we keep that, right? So anyways, a lot of really cool tech to just be able to do that.
That is a big one. I've had that one come up many, many times where people are like, well, why is the deliverable so late? And they're like, well, it's done when I stop writing code. It's like, yeah, but there's actually like that last 10%, so to speak, is 90% of the effort when you validate it if it actually does what it's supposed to do type of thing. It's like, oftentimes they forget to even push it to production, right? You're like, where is it? They're like, oh, it's been there for a week. You're like, what? Push the damn thing.
Yeah, it's on my branch. Well, God damn it.
So one, I think you're right. I think that's fascinating. And I kind of just had this thought yesterday, even, I don't know, maybe not yesterday, but recently in the last week, but just what I don't know that a lot of people realize is that a ton of the LLMs, they're giving and putting a face on it, and they're allowing people to really speed through a lot of the prototyping. But the refined version of that product still actually looks more like software than an LLM, right? Yep. Like the more defined the process gets, the more it looks like API calls and stuff like that. Right? Like, hey, if I go talk to Chief, I love Chief, that's a great name, from someone who has to build a lot of agents and special personal assistants for myself and others and stuff like that. Good one. I have not thought of that one. But a ton of what those do and look like. It starts very general, and it moves through that very quickly, but once you start to look at the costs associated with using LLM for those tests, they're ridiculous. It's like, no. Like, I can use arithmetic and an abacus to solve this thing. I'm not going to bust out an LLM. They're not even that great at doing just simple math anyways, right? So I oftentimes don't trust them. And usually to get them accurate, that means you have to build the underlying infrastructure so they're not thinking. They're just referencing an existing number, right? It's like, well, then I need a database behind it that's running it, right? The accuracy goes up that way.
All of that infrastructure has to be there for it to be true and trusted. I love the fact that you don't trust them. I say an LLM as a teenage boy. It sure can be clever and it can do some really cool things, but I don't trust it. And our systems treat it that way too. Like we are an AI company because we do a lot of machine learning. We do leverage our own LLM. We do some stuff like that. But for the most part, what we're really doing is taking that work that used to need a human being to do and making it no longer necessary for a human to do it. And it's crap. We get all our invoices via a PDF that comes in from the supplier. And then I have to take that and put it in QuickBooks. Why?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we do, NER, and we leverage OCR if there's images in it and all that kind of stuff to like translate that into our universal data model so that we can feed it into the appropriate systems so that the human doesn't have to do that. Right.
For those listening, NER is named entity recognition. It's basically when you recognize a proper noun in text. Did I see a time, a place, a person, or whatever, and recognize what they are or what they mean? This is one of those things that people don't think is a big deal, like your QuickBooks example. I remember having one project where we had a kind of a budgeting app, kind of like a mint.com type of thing. I'm trying to even remember their name. I'm sure they're out there still, but they wanted us to just classify someone's bank statements. So you just take the row, you know how much it is, you know what day it took place. But what isn't as obvious is what it was for, just because oftentimes you'll get the vendor name or you'll potentially get their LLC name, not their brand name, and almost never the actual product that you purchased. And so one of those really simple things is just classifying what your bank statement is. If you're the person there, you have the reference. So you know how much it was, what day it was, what you were doing that day. Oh, was that brand name in the background somewhere? So it makes a little bit more sense to you. But doing without that information was way more difficult than people thought it would be, right? It's like,
that's right.
I mean, it's pulling up and looking at someone else's Greek and going, all right, some of these are intuitive, a bunch of them not even close. And then some of them are huge. Like you see JP Morgan Chase and you're like, all right, what do I do with that? And oftentimes it didn't tell you what it was for, right?
Right.
It didn't have the luxury of saying interest charge or something like that. There are a lot of those little, we call that the drudgery, right?
Oh yeah,
where you're
same.
Just going, the drudgery.
The drudgery. Yeah, that's what we're focused on more than anything else is the drudgery, because it's the stuff nobody wants to pay to have done. And I have this little set of stories that tell the origin of most companies. And the one that I call Sarah's time off. And the whole purpose of Sarah's time off is Sarah was the first employee of the company, Mug Co., right? And she knows how every part of the work gets done. And she eventually gets so tired of being the center of the universe for the business that she needs some time off. She just needs some time off. And the founder owner is like, yeah, take some time off. No problem. You're Mugco. Like, Mugco's the name of the company. And, you know, we love you. You're part of the family. Take the time you need. So she does. Owner goes to the rest of the team, says, don't call Sarah unless it's an emergency. And of course, initially, nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. Everything's moving. And then one day, one of the major wholesale customers calls and says, hey, where's my order? Now, the person that answers the phone has access to one system that tells them the order information for the customer, right? It goes, oh, it usually takes 7 days. It's been 5 days. It'll be to you in 2 days, tells the customer that. The customer goes, great, whatever. 2 days later, doesn't show up. Now it's an emergency. So call Sarah. Now, what does Sarah do? Contacts about a dozen people. Somebody that's got access to the warehouse system, somebody that's got access to the transport manifest, somebody that's got, she branches out with context, understanding like, oh, that didn't occur. This must have occurred, understands that whole chain of events and realizes that it's stuck on a truck in Tasmania or something. And like figures out how to get it to them, contacts the customer and says, hey, it's running a little late. It got stuck on a truck. Here's where it is. It'll be there in 3 days. Customer's happy. Thinks that's the end of it. Problem is, that was just the first of many fires that was just already starting to simmer. Every single company we interact with has Sarahs all over the place. And the reason that we try to get rid of the drudgery is that it also informs us about that branching out. What do I do when it's not right? Who do I contact? What systems do I need to have access? So you can start to build up that graph of the entire business context, the interrelationships of the data, et cetera. So you can surface when something's wrong before the customer calls you, but you can also start to do even more and tell them there's going to be a customer calling you. There's going to be a problem. We can start to surface that. But it starts with the drudgery, because that's usually happens because it's where a human is doing the API work. It's where software should be doing the work, but it exists between two different systems or many systems.
There used to be an old quote, the test of a vocation is the love of its drudgery. I don't know that that's true anymore, because I go, no. Like, I do believe, I think you're right. There shouldn't be drudgery. Again, I don't necessarily know what the job of the future looks like, but I know it's not repetitive. And I know it's novel problem solving, at least, right? It is absolutely, no one has figured out this problem yet, systems alone. And your AI agent might be a brainstorming tool, but it's not going to solve it and close the loop by itself. And you're going to be acting more as like an editor/curator, and maybe have your own little fiefdom with like 7 agents beneath you. But that's potentially part of it, right? Every day is like, how do you automate a little bit more of your life so that you are genuinely freeing up as much time as possible? Because let's be honest, that's the real measure of wealth, is what can you do with your time, right?
That's exactly.
And then the second half of that is like, who do you have to answer to? It's like, I'm on top of my stuff. That's an interesting thing. And you know what? The other thing you're making me realize is just, we're really bad at that. Like, it's really easy for me to go to my team and go, hey, by the way, you waste too much time on this. Like, hey, we have this stand-up meeting every day. Why haven't you guys automated the metrics and the call outs of the 5 things that we need to fix that happened overnight or whatever, right? I'm going, shit, why haven't we done, like, it's cobbler's shoes, right? Like, wait a minute, we're supposed to be the first damn people that do that. Why haven't we done that? That's easy. So I've got to write a note as soon as we hang up to go, damn it, guys. How the hell have we missed this? We have all the data and everything. We should have done this by now.
For me, it's a measure of, we used to measure because of Agile, and I wrote a book called Fragile, which is complaining about Agile more than anything else. But the thing that always bugged me is this velocity concept. I don't have a problem with like saying, how are we doing versus yesterday? That's a good measure, but I don't think of it as velocity, because that lacks mass. I want to know what our momentum is. I want to know, is there more moving forward at the same rate, or more moving even at a slower rate's fine? Is it how much mass plus velocity do we have? And so this forces the team to consider things like, wait, can't I automate part of my own job right now? There's this thing that we do all day long, every day, that I could probably just build a tool that does it for me, because I'm a software engineer, if that's your team, right? And what if my team, that's actually happening we're watching our momentum increase every day. Now, we are an automation platform largely. I mean, the drudgery is what we're trying to get rid of. We're connecting all these systems together. But once you have enough of those Lego blocks, you'd be amazed at what you can do in just a matter of hours that used to be months worth of work. And every day, if you can add one more Lego block to the kit, or you can assemble another kit into a complete set, your momentum just continues to grow and grow and grow.
Man, that's interesting. Also, the mention of agile and fragile. One, that means that you actually understand it, which puts you in probably the smallest percentile. If I had a nickel for everybody who mentioned agile, and I'm like, just because you used a Trello board doesn't mean that you're doing it.
Yeah.
And it is hard to implement. A ton of it, I go, like a ton of people, I swear they implement it just so they never actually have to hit a deadline.
That's the worst. My favorite failure mode for it is like not understanding that it's pretty useful. Like as a set of like the manifesto itself is useful. Like the things that I believe that I want to be true and the way I want to think about a project, totally agree with 90% of it. The problem is the formalized versions of it almost abandon that and try to create like an artifact driven version of it. And so you end up with like almost ceremony for ceremony's sake without the value.
Wholeheartedly agree. There's like the insight from Uber. Uber didn't create any specific new invention. It got rid of all the mental friction that came with getting a ride, right? They made all of the unnecessary stuff that didn't need to happen first fall away and everything else. And what they were left with was like, all right, this is so smooth. There's actually very little decision making that needs to happen here. It's like, if I know my destination, that's pretty much all I need to know right now, right? Wholeheartedly agree. A ton of the stuff that goes into it is process and ceremony. And are we doing this? Do we know why we're doing this? It's like a ton of it is like, yeah, we're adhering to all of these artifacts and ceremonies without deadlines. The deadlines seem to be the last thing we care about, and they're the thing that makes sure we all get paid. So it's like,
and the disconnect from any idea, like to that point, like there's a disconnect from the responsibility and like, also accountability that comes with that, but also dependency. Any sufficiently complex organization or technology requires other parties or other systems to interact with it. And if you're the dependency of somebody else, like the work that you're doing impacts their timeline, you better hit your deadline or they're going to fall behind too. And there's no accounting for that in it. Everybody just kind of abandons that as a concept.
Yeah, very much agree. Because usually I remember it was put together by a lot of the devs that wanted to make sure they didn't have to hit deadlines. It was just like, sorry, man, it works for a while, but then you get laid off. Like, so it's comfortable while it lasts. I love that. What have you gotten from Mass? I like that idea of Mass. I want to see if I can try this thing on Mass because we've seen it. I'm starting to experience it. Like every time we've kind of, I mean, I don't know that we stole the idea, but I think it was Shopify's CEO said, I need you guys to basically demonstrate to me that you cannot do this job with AI before you have us hire anyone else. And we haven't necessarily explicitly said that, but it's kind of happened anyways, just again, because we're all familiar with, well, why don't we build a tool or a tool call or whatever else that does that? And, we hit a milestone of sorts a few weeks ago where we just went, we're generating more code than we can even review on a weekly basis now. It's like, hey, I'm one guy. I can't go through and review multiple pull requests that are 15,000 lines anymore. Like, hey, I got to do my own stuff. And I'm giving other people pull requests that they're supposed to review that are more than they can process in a day. So, man, that's interesting. I want to start thinking more about that because that's, I mean, have you ever checked the actual productivity that's been recorded in the United States is like single digits. It's like 1-2% type stuff. Yeah. Really, really low. And you're like, no, I swear we're doing 10% per month or something. It's massive and accelerating, especially right now. That's an interesting one. And also you find out a lot of the projects that people are implementing with AI fail, but it's largely because they don't have metrics to follow in the first place. It's not that they didn't do anything or didn't get anything. They just don't know how to benchmark what they actually got from it. Right. And again, we weren't measuring it before. We know it's better. We just don't know how much, it's like, Um, that's a big problem. That's a very big problem.
They generally don't even, to your point, if you can't measure it, you probably don't know the definition of it. Like, what's the outcome we're driving towards here? And in most,
Sure.
any large business I've been in, it's very difficult to get to get a team and then an individual on a team and say, tell me exactly what you do and how it increases the value of the company or customer impact by what we do. Like, just tell me the value of what you do. And they'll tell you metrics that they're measured against every time. Oh, developer speed within the organization goes up by 10% because I create documentation that allows them to find clarity, blah, blah, blah. You'll get an answer that is very much like, this was my goal for the quarter and I met it. It's like, now connect that to the actual outcome of the business. And if you can't, are you sure you're doing the right thing? And most organizations get that like cascading from the board down set of requirements of like, okay, we're going to do this thing. This is our goal for the company. And at every step of the leadership chain, they're looking at their organization as it is and say, how do I shove that in this organization and make it, at least coherent enough we can plan against? And then everybody does that all the way down. Well, what happens when the organization itself is the wrong shape? Because what's being asked for has nothing to do with the teams we have today. They are a part of the legacy of the organization. And that's where the disconnect usually breaks, is when any combination of the customer's needs from the company or the customer or the market's needs from the company, the internal organizational structure, and the technology, any three of those are out of alignment and it will fail every time. And if you don't address the structural issue and you instead just say, we're going to give them more tools to continue to operate in the space they have today, you've changed nothing. You've made them faster at not delivering value. And that's what you see a lot.
There's a lot of measure twice, cut once, where you find out like it's one of those things that everyone skips past, but actually is the biggest cost saver that you're ever going to find. Thinking through the, who was it? If I had 24 hours to solve a problem, I would think for 23 and a half and then write down the answer for the last 30 minutes. Again, like in terms of how our day is shifting, I'm definitely noticing that's more of mine, is putting more like again, some of the agents that I've built are just around helping me better refine specs. Specs is the name of one of them. Specs, like specification doc. Yeah. And he's wearing glasses in his picture. But again, his job, he does stuff like asks for detailed definitions of done, right? So I just go, oh yeah, that gives them more context for what, and here's what I'm trying to accomplish, and here's my idea on how to solve it. But you may have 10 other ideas that are better than mine on how we go about it, which is oftentimes the better solution. That is interesting. What do you see this looking like in 5 years? What do you see your own company looking like in 5 years?
Well, I'll be able to do the entire thing from whatever replaces this. I think that we'll have our entire ability to run a company from your pocket, which is what we all want, right? It'll be a lot more human. I actually think I'll spend a lot more time doing things like this and sharing the value this way. Human-to-human interaction, not so much. I call it the tyranny of the terminal. I hate computers, the way that we interface with them today. And I'm somebody who writes code and likes the command line. I just don't like the fact that I'm trapped in a space with this machine, and that's the only way I can do it. I can converse out loud almost as fast as I can type. And I think that the thoughts come out better that way. So I think that we'll move a lot more towards like a displacement of where work can be done. It can be done more from anywhere, even than during the pandemic. Like I'll be able to do it from the beach. I do think it'll become a lot more human to human, because that's where the value will continue to be created. You see the curtain moving behind me. One of my dogs just came in and wanted attention. So you'll have a lot more value created from those human to human interactions, because that's where you'll identify problems. But I think technology will disappear to the background. I don't think it'll continue to be the center of our world. It'll become plumbing in the wall.
I hope so. I like that idea. I agree with you. One of the weird unintended effects of a lot of the LLMs is additional content's cost kind of going to zero. It's, it used to be like for software, the incremental cost of an additional unit of value is near zero. Right now, that's very much happening to content production. You want, like, if we wanted to take this and turn it into 50 blogs or whatever else after that, you upload the transcript, You go and have, whatever agent go and research each of the topics, pull down some facts, footnotes, whatever, not a problem. And simultaneously, because everyone else knows that is happening as well, I've almost seen a significant pullback from social media and stuff like that. People are going, so the content's there, but also the trust factor is lesser there. A lot of people are taught the enshittification, if you've heard that term.
Yeah.
There's a lot of enshittification going on, which is I actually think getting people to unplug more, or at least be more selective about what they will consume.
Exactly. I actually think the same thing happens with art. Like painting could have very easily disappeared when photography was invented. But instead, painting became more of a high art. It quit being about getting a portrait made or having memorializing a specific event. It became something that was sought after because it was a painting. It was made by human hands. And as we see AI stuff getting generated, you're starting to see the exact same pullback from, and like you didn't really experience that, or you didn't really create it. And so people are looking for proof that it's real. And I'm hopeful, this is that optimistic side. I'm hopeful that also happens with like news and, truth. Instead of just seeing what's thrown in front of you, people start to go, wait a second, I'm going to do some actual research here and reach out to people I know that live there, or whatever. Connecting with people is what we do best. We're humans. That's what we want to do. Right. Do
you think we'll have kind of the next level, the VA agent bubble to some extent? Like you held up your phone earlier, where I almost go, the user interface of the future is probably that chat thread, that little chat agent interface that, what do you want to see? It's like, cool. I'm not going to build you a SaaS. I'm going to show you the page from the SaaS when you want to see it, with exactly the information you want on the screen and nothing else.
The user interface of the now, I think, is the zero UI movement that started, which is instead of any piece of software trying to be the center of your entire work world, it's the realization that you were always the center of that world and being wherever you are. And so like our entire platform, you don't come to us, it's there with you. And you can do browser extensions. You can do that a lot of different ways. Like Claudebot tries to do it in a particular way. We also tried a very similar way of doing it at one point and have that ability, but that's not what we're going to market with. But just because that gives you context that you could get no other way, right? And because we have a deep integration platform, when you go somewhere, we're like, oh, we have an integration for that. Would you like that to connect to Ngentix? Yes, I would. Great. Here's the 10 automations because of the things that you told us, that you gave us access to. Here's 10 things we can automate for you right now. And it's just happening while you're working elsewhere. You could be anywhere doing that. Is there a voice? Yeah, you can do it in voice. Is there chat? Sure, you can use chat. But like, I think that it tries to get further and further away from being even something I had to type in or talk to. It's there and suggesting when it's, when there's that opportunity.
Oh, that's a big one. I do like the passive data collection and anticipatory solutions, right? Yeah. You didn't ask me to do this, but I noticed it because I had access to your calendar. Like, hey, did you know you don't have a daily agenda or something like that notifies you what to expect, right? Something that just removes one more worry. I do like those. What about the art that you're making from this entire situation? I noticed you had an actual, you've got a portfolio and everything on, what was your site for the artwork?
c-hammer.com.
Yeah.
And I think you can get to christianhammer.io too. I'm a big fan of like putting joy into the world. It's why I have a podcast that's optimistic on technology, right? I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't find joy in it, and I didn't hope others would too. And so somebody will give me a prompt, like I'm an LLM, like that the island you live on, people come there because they're really into Dungeness crab. I'm like, oh, crabs are an interesting subject. Can I make them feel like there's an emotional response there? Like there's some emotion they're portraying. So the first crab painting I did, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. The first crab painting I did was a crab that was eating it had picked up with its claws a oyster. So it's an oyster on the half shell. You get the oyster open and you can see it.
Sure.
And it's holding it up like it's going to eat it. Now it's called the oyster dinner. Now in my head, the little conversation that's happening is not, is he about to eat the oyster? It's, is he handing me the oyster so I'll eat it and not him? Is he pleading in some way, like in giving me a gift? Is there's this little conversation going on? And so like I do that with every one of my paintings. There's a little story that I'm playing with the characters there. And I'm if people discover it, that's awesome. If they find a little bit of joy in it, that's the thing. That's the whole purpose. Maybe they have their own story for it.
I love that. My wife is a performance artist, and when we got married, she was doing modern dance, professional modern dance. And I always got mad when we'd go and they'd have to explain a dance piece, and they'd go, "What's it about?" And the choreographer would go like, "Will you tell me?" I'd be like, "Damn it, you need a thesis. Don't just no, it's not just no. I want something to anchor this on. There better be some answer. Like it's always subject to my interpretation, but there better be something behind it." I always got mad when it was just, "Oh, it's just motion." And I'd be like, "Well, that's dumb." So good on you. I like that premise.
I was trying to remember who I was talking to about it. So Chuck Palahniuk, he wrote Fight Club and Choke and all that.
Many. I've read many of those.
Yeah. Asking him about like when the book was made into a movie and how he felt about that. And his response was perfect, I thought. He's like, "Well, Christian, I think of it a lot like you have to think about a child. You put all your hopes and dreams into it and your own expectations, and then you put it out into the world and it becomes something else. It doesn't mean you're not proud of it." And I was like, oh, wow. That's actually how I think of painting. Like I put a story into it, but it's okay if you get a different story from it. You got joy from it. You got a reaction to it. That's all that matters.
That's very cool. That's the "I shot an arrow into the air" type of, if you remember the poem. But not being about a lie or a rumor or whatever. But the same kind of premise of like, all right, I no longer control that thing. But very cool. You're a fascinating man, Mr. Hammer. I appreciate the time and conversation. Where else can people find you? We talked about the c-hammer.com for the artwork. Where else should people look? Ngentix as an example, and what socials?
Ngentix.ai. Yeah, christianhammer.io connects to all of them. That's also where you can get the books that I've written, which are all available on everywhere you can buy books, mostly Amazon. I think I linked to. That's the best place because that'll connect to everything else. Instagram, I'm on Blue Sky. That's kind of it. I'm on LinkedIn a lot, but I stay off of most of the socials.
Me too. Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Everybody, we'll put the links and everything down below, including I'm going to find the crab and oyster painting. And appreciate you, sir. We'll talk to you again. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.